8 years ago, my husband Robert left me and our kids for a woman he met online. It was a shocking and painful time for us. He had been acting strange for weeks, but I thought it was just work stress. We had been married for over 10 years and had a strong bond, or so I thought. One evening, Robert told me he'd fallen in love with someone else. Her name was Isabella, and he called her the hottest woman he had ever seen. They had been talking online for 3 months, and he felt a connection with her that made him realize he was unhappy in our marriage. His words shattered me. He said he still loved us but couldn't deny his feelings for Isabella. He needed to meet her in person to see where their relationship could go. I was overwhelmed with anger and despair. When I asked if he was leaving us for her, he nodded and said he needed to do this for himself. He promised to support us financially but was determined to follow his heart and meet the woman he believed to be the love of his life. My world fell apart. I couldn't believe Robert was leaving me and our kids for someone he had never met in person. Now, after 8 years, he's back with an offer for me. I'm 40 now and feeling very conflicted about what to do next. I need everyone's opinion on this situation. My first instinct was to scream, to plead, to do anything to make him stay. But when I looked at his face, I knew he had already made his choice, and there was no turning back. Robert moved out the following week, leaving me to explain to our children that their father wouldn't be coming back. Emily, who was 9 years old, had 1,000 questions, but I had no answers. Nathan, who was only 4, couldn't fully understand what was happening and clung to me, sensing something was terribly wrong. I felt numb and shattered, but my children were the only thing keeping me from drowning in my sorrow. When I told my family about Robert, they were just as shocked as I was. They couldn't understand why my husband of so many years would do something like this. My parents wanted me to take legal action, but at that point, I still believed Robert might come back. Robert's parents were devastated and tried calling him multiple times, pleading with him to return, but he told them the same story he told me. Days turned into weeks and weeks into months. I was left to pick up the pieces for myself and for the kids. Our family and friends rallied around us, offering support and a shoulder to lean on. I focused on finding a job to provide a stable environment for Emily and Nathan, but the pain of my husband's betrayal lingered. During this time, Robert's parents helped a lot, offering financial support and babysitting the children when I needed a break. 8 years have passed since then, and Robert has become nothing more than a distant memory. He used to send us money periodically but never contacted me or the children. I've pretty much become a single mother, working tirelessly to provide for my children and give them the love and attention they deserve. Although Emily occasionally remembered her father, she eventually stopped trying to contact him and learned not to bring him up. Nathan's memories of him are hazy, so he never mentions him. Despite everything, they have both grown up to be remarkable individuals. The pain of losing their father was always present. Recently, Robert's father passed away unexpectedly, and we all attended his funeral. Later, the family lawyer informed us that he needed to talk to me about the will. Robert's father had left some money for his grandchildren. While it wasn't a large amount, it could help cover my kids' college expenses. I sat down with my children and shared the news. Their faces lit up with joy, and seeing their happiness was heartwarming. It felt like a weight had been lifted, knowing we had one less worry after so much uncertainty. Last week, I received a call from an unknown number. To my surprise, it was Robert. Hearing his voice after 8 years brought a rush of conflicting emotions, and I was speechless. He hesitated before telling me he wanted to meet urgently. Confused, I asked him to clarify. He said he wanted to discuss an offer and kept pleading that he had to see me. I couldn't understand why he was calling now, after so many years without contact. His repeated pleas were hard to ignore, so I took a moment to gather my thoughts and finally agreed to meet him, though cautiously. We arranged to meet at a cafe near my office. As I hung up, a whirlwind of questions and uncertainties filled my mind, making me anxious about meeting him after all these years. I decided not to tell my kids anything until after I met him to understand what his offer was about. The days leading up to our meeting were an emotional roller coaster. I couldn't help but replay the past in my mind, recalling the pain of Robert's sudden departure, the struggles of raising our children alone, and the years of trying to come to terms with his abandonment. On the day of our meeting, I felt a mix of anxiety and curiosity, unsure of what to expect from this unexpected reunion. I arrived early, nervously sipping my coffee as I waited for Robert. It wasn't long before he walked in, approaching me with a mix of hesitation and determination. I noticed he looked older, worn, and somehow different from the man I had married. Our initial exchange was filled with awkward silences and tentative words. We avoided the elephant in the room, focusing instead on polite greetings and catching up on the years that had passed. It was as if we were two strangers trying to navigate the remnants of a past life. Eventually, Robert gathered his courage and began to explain the reason for his sudden reappearance in our lives. He spoke about how Isabella didn't turn out to be the woman he thought she was. It turns out she was actually a single mother herself, but had never revealed the truth to him until he had left us and was standing on her doorstep. The relationship faced numerous challenges, mainly stemming from her gambling addiction, which led her to squander all of his money. They argued frequently, but Robert chose to stand by her, hesitant to give up on someone else again. However, when his father passed away recently, he realized how short life was to remain in an unhappy situation every day. He spoke about how much he missed everyone back here and was disappointed with the choices he had made 8 years ago. Robert continued, saying he had thought several times over the years of coming back to us, but didn't have the strength to face us. He then revealed that his father had left him their lake house, a huge property where we used to go for vacations before Robert left us. He told me he wanted to sell the house, which would allow him to be set for the rest of his life. I nodded quietly, listening to him. Then Robert dropped a bombshell. He proposed that he wanted to come back to us and give our children a luxurious life. He assured me that I would never have to work again if I accepted him back into our lives. I stared at him in disbelief as he promised we could live the rest of our lives without worrying about money. Robert wanted us to reconcile and give our family a second chance, using the inheritance to build a better life together. I weighed Robert's words carefully, understanding the potential benefits that the inheritance could bring to our family. However, it was impossible to forget all the years he had been absent, leaving me to fend for our children alone. As much as the idea of financial security appealed to me, I couldn't ignore the pain and anger that had built up over the years of his abandonment. So, I firmly told him that while I appreciated the offer, I just couldn't forget the last 8 years. I told Robert that I had been raising the kids alone while juggling work. While we might not have everything now, we did have a stable life. I told him I couldn't risk putting myself and my children through the pain again. I wanted to protect them, and I wasn't sure if I could ever trust him not to leave us again. Robert kept pleading with me to reconsider, his eyes filled with desperation. But I knew that if I allowed him back into our lives, I would be taking a huge gamble on our family's stability. My heart ached at the thought of rejecting his offer, especially considering the financial relief it could bring, but I couldn't overlook the emotional scars he had left behind. Since my meeting with Robert, my parents have been asking me to reconsider my decision to reject his offer. They keep telling me that after what he has put us through, the least he could do now was provide me and our children with a better life free from financial worries and limitations. My parents argue that people can change, and perhaps Robert has realized his mistakes and truly wants to rebuild our family. They think I am being selfish and want me to put my children's comfort above my heartbreak. I have been spending many sleepless nights wrestling with my choice. I haven't been able to bring myself to tell my children about Robert's return. I worry about how they will react to the news and how they will process the idea of their father re-entering their lives after 8 years of absence. I have been questioning my own judgment, torn between the potential benefits of accepting Robert's offer and the memories of our painful past. So, Reddit, am I the __ for rejecting Robert's offer and possibly keeping my children and us from a better life? Update: in just a few days, I received thousands of comments and messages from people. I am glad that a majority of you don't think I am the __. I listened to everyone's advice and decided it was time to have an open conversation with my children about Robert. The last thing I wanted was for him to reappear in their lives and take them by surprise. Today, I sat Emily and Nathan down after dinner to gently broach the subject with them. I began to tell them about their father's unexpected reappearance and his offer to come back into our lives. Their faces reflected a mix of curiosity and confusion as they tried to understand what I was saying. When I told them that he had inherited the lake house and wanted to sell it to help us financially, their reactions varied. Emily, now 17 years old, exhibited a range of emotions from anger to shock. She was as confused as me and couldn't understand why Robert wanted to return to us after so many years. Although she remembered her father and sometimes missed him, she also remembered the pain she had felt in his absence. She said that she had missed having a father figure in her life initially, but had eventually learned to live without him and did not want him back now. Nathan, who was now 12 years old, told us that he didn't remember Robert at all, so he didn't care much that I had rejected the offer. He struggled to grasp the full implications of the situation. I told them frankly that whatever they decided would happen, as I respected their opinions and emotions. Emily expressed that she had absolutely no desire to meet him, and Nathan agreed, saying that he was content with how things were. I realized that although the thought of potentially mending our family was enticing, the scars from the past ran deep and my children's well-being was paramount in my mind. I knew I had made the right choice to walk away from Robert that day in the cafe. Following this, I plan on talking to my parents about the next course of action. Contrary to popular opinion, I believe my decision to protect my children from further pain is the right one. I never planned on staying married to Robert, but he left before we could go through with a divorce. I didn't have the resources to go against him then, but I have since realized that there is no point in staying married to this man anymore. Update: Robert's relentless calls have become increasingly desperate over the past few weeks. No matter how much I explained that I did not want him back, he kept calling. As a non-confrontational person, I felt cornered and emotionally drained by his constant attempts to reach me. I was worried that he might suddenly turn up at my workplace or visit the kids at school. Hence, I decided it was time to reach out to his mother. She was aware of his return and seemed like the only person who could help me understand his motivations and deal with his relentless pursuit. I met her to inform her of my decision to end things with him legally and to express my annoyance with his constant calls. During this conversation, his mother revealed the real reason behind his persistence. She explained that Robert's father had added a cleverly designed clause when bequeathing him the lake house. He could become the owner of the house if, and only if, he returned to our family. To solidify his claim over the house, I had to sign the papers as well. This revelation left me shocked and dismayed. I finally understood why he had been pursuing me for several weeks. The primary reason he was contacting me was not out of a genuine desire to reconcile or make amends, but rather to secure ownership of the house. The whole situation felt like a cruel manipulation of emotions, and I needed to consider my next steps carefully. After discovering Robert's true intentions, I realized it was time to act. I didn't want to stay in a relationship driven by manipulation and secrets. I have started looking for a lawyer to help me prepare for my divorce proceedings immediately. I have also talked with my parents, who now regret telling me to reconsider his offer. They understand now that he hasn't changed over the years and are supportive of my decision to move forward with the divorce. They regret ever suggesting I listen to him and now know that it is the right thing to walk away from him. For now, I have blocked Robert so he can't disturb me anymore. I plan to see him directly when I serve him with divorce papers. Update 3. It's been 2 months since my last update, and I finally have some good news. As I mentioned, I was going to serve Robert with the divorce papers, so I reached out to him under the pretext of meeting him. He immediately agreed. Emily and Nathan expressed a desire to meet their father one last time. They had many questions, and I felt it was essential for them to have some closure despite the pain of the past. We arranged for a meeting in a neutral place, a local park where we had spent many happy family moments before Robert's departure. Emily's eyes were filled with a mixture of curiosity and skepticism as she looked at her father, while Nathan clung to my side awkwardly. I started by telling Robert that I knew his real motive behind contacting us after so long. Robert protested that it wasn't just the clause in his father's will that prompted him, but that he genuinely wanted us to give him a second chance. I shook my head in disbelief, knowing that I could not trust another word out of this man's mouth. I told him that we were finished and that the least he could do was give our children some closure by answering their questions. He nodded solemnly. Emily started by asking him if leaving us for another woman was worth it. Robert shamefully looked down as he answered that he was lost and had made a terrible mistake. Nathan, with a more straightforward approach, asked him if finding his happiness was more important than leaving his children. Robert took a deep breath before responding that he hadn't been thinking straight at the time and admitted that he was wrong in leaving us. My children, perceptive and strong, weren't satisfied with just those answers. Robert tried to justify his affair, saying that it was his midlife crisis. As the conversation continued, Robert shared painful details of his life with Isabella, the struggles they faced, and the realization that he had been chasing an illusion. Emily and Nathan listened attentively, although I doubt they believed him. They asked him why he had never kept in touch and if he really regretted leaving us. I could feel the pain in my children's voices. Robert admitted that he had been overwhelmed by his own guilt and didn't know how to face the consequences of his actions. He reiterated that he wanted us to be whole again and that he could provide us with a luxurious life now. As I looked into my children's eyes, I knew that the decision was clear. They did not believe him, just like me, and would not allow Robert to waltz back into our lives offering money as a quick fix for the damage he had caused. It was a matter of principle, of standing up for the strength and resilience my children and I had shown over the past 8 years in his absence. Determined, I told him that we had moved on from him and did not need him or his money anymore. I served him the divorce papers as he looked at them with a mixture of remorse and disappointment. He pleaded with me, saying he genuinely wanted to make up for those years, but I was resolute in my decision. He then offered to split the lake house sale proceeds with me, telling me that in this way we could both benefit from it. Emily spoke up, saying we didn't need his charity money, and Nathan nodded in agreement, adding that we had what we needed to be happy. At this point, I guess Robert finally realized what a huge blunder he had made and started to cry. He kept apologizing to the kids, saying he had made a terrible mistake by leaving us and understood that we could never forgive him. That day, as I walked away from the park hand in hand with Emily and Nathan, I finally felt free. It had never occurred to me the burden I had carried quietly for the sake of my children. It felt good watching my children stand up for me and have my back. Our divorce will proceed as I have decided. I know it's going to take a while before I am legally free from him. But in the meantime, I plan on taking some time off so I can spend quality time with my children. We have been looking forward to a trip to Disneyland for a long time, and I want to create beautiful memories filled with laughter and joy to help offset the painful memories of the past. As long as we have each other, we can face whatever the future holds with strength and resilience. Despite the challenges and emotional turmoil we have faced, my children and I are on a path towards healing and creating a new, stable, and honest life. This chapter is far from over, but we are going to be writing our own story from now on, and I am determined to ensure it's one filled with love, trust, and growth. Update 4. Since my last update, I have some exciting news to share. I was promoted at work, and it feels like a huge accomplishment. It took me a long time to reach this position, but I am finally earning a comfortable income that allows me to provide even more for my family. The promotion not only brings financial security, but also the satisfaction of knowing that my hard work and dedication have paid off. Things are going well with the divorce proceedings. I have hired an excellent lawyer who, after learning the history between my husband and me, is confident that it will be a smooth divorce. Although it may not be a simple process, it is necessary for our closure and a fresh start. My family and friends have stood by my side throughout this time, providing unwavering support. Now that I am earning more than enough, I plan on sending my children to therapy. I understand that my children might have abandonment issues, and I want them to better process their emotions and work through any lingering issues. I have been researching therapists with expertise in dealing with such issues and have found a compassionate and experienced therapist who specializes in helping children and families navigate complex emotions. As a parent, I believe in promoting the exploration of my children's interests beyond their studies. My daughter Emily has a remarkable talent for art and spends hours creating beautiful paintings that adorn our home. My son Nathan has always had a natural talent for soccer, and we spend our weekends attending his games and cheering him on. I am proud to see my children thriving in their lives. Regarding Robert, we have not been in contact, and I believe it is best to keep it that way. As many of you correctly assumed, his affair partner Isabella unexpectedly contacted me one day. Her message was not an apology, as one might expect, but rather filled with anger and resentment towards me for allegedly taking Robert away from her. She blamed me for their relationship falling apart and accused me of being the reason for his departure. In her messages, Isabella lashed out, calling me names and making hurtful accusations. She questioned my motives and claimed I had manipulated Robert into returning to our family. The messages were aggressive and unsettling, and I couldn't help but feel overwhelmed by the intensity of her anger. I couldn't believe that this woman had the audacity to be angry at me when she was the reason behind my family breaking up 8 years ago. I responded to her, stating that I had no desire to be with Robert and that I was in the process of getting a divorce. I made it clear that my priority was the well-being of my children and that we had moved on from Robert. It was time for her to do the same. As I move forward, I am focused on creating a happy and stable life for my children and myself. We are ready to embrace our future, free from the shadows of the past, and I am confident that we will continue to thrive together. I reminded Isabella of the pain and confusion my family went through when Robert left us for her. I told her she had no right to contact me and stressed how our lives had been turned upside down all those years ago and how my children had suffered as a result. I made it clear that I never wanted him back, and if she needed to blame someone, she should blame herself and her gambling addiction. I blocked her after I sent the message, hoping she wouldn't try to contact me further. I didn't want her to disrupt the peaceful life my children and I have built. As for Robert's mother, I still talk to her sometimes as she has always been kind to me. She has expressed her regrets about how things turned out and wants me to do whatever it takes to be happy. Interestingly, his mother also revealed that due to my decision not to reconcile with Robert, the lake house would not be going to him as his father had intended. This revelation was unexpected, but it also felt deserved. His selfish decisions had shattered not only our family but also another, so it was fitting that he should face consequences. It was time to move forward and leave the past behind. I know it's going to be a challenging journey, but the healing process is well underway. My children are growing and thriving, and our future looks brighter with each passing day.